Hi, welcome to Trading Without Fear. In this episode, I'm going to be going over the recap of August. Some things that I did right, some of the things that I did wrong, how I actually overcome a losing streak. And so let's go ahead and get right into it. So this right here is my tracker. I ended up starting these $130 challenge back in April. June was the first full month that I did the $130 challenge. The challenge has been renamed to the Small Account Challenge, just because I have had to refund my account. I do have a bit more money to play with at this point, so it's no longer going to be a $130 challenge. But basically, what was going on in June, and this is just to give you a little bit of emphasis of where I came from and what happened and what's going to be going on in the future. So, in June, what I was looking at was the probabilities of the market. I stuck to pretty much only Vista stocks only, and was trying to aim for the highest probability. At this point, it was a 15 to 20% move, even though the average was right here was a 47. Based off this section, I was actually aiming for 15 to 20%. So I was using bracket orders and was trading for small profits. I was doing pretty well. I ended up closing the month out at $120.77 profit. In July, started following the same strategy, making some pretty big gains right here. That was MRIN as a pre-market buy, and some of the things started changing in my mental process and started having some major step ups on the 23rd. Basically, from the 15th to the 23rd is when some of my disciplines started falling, and then in August, some of my disciplines started carrying over. So I only had 4 somewhat good winning trades in August. And a lot of that came down to really not. So I only had 4 good winning trades in August, and a lot of that came down to as a lack of discipline, not cut my losses quickly, not really trading the charts that I normally trade. And so when I'm going through and I'm actually looking at some of my charts that I ended up taking a screenshot of, I do end up trading a lot of wedge patterns and ABCD patterns, and they do take a little bit of time to actually form in the market. And so those are pretty much the ones that I trade the most of. And what's ended up happening is I started gathering data on other patterns and other strategies. I know those strategies work, but what ended up happening is I just had a really hard time cutting my losses. And so, because I had a hard time cutting my losses on those trades, that kind of carried over to taking bigger and bigger losses. So what I'm trying to do right now is actually just find a chart example. So here's a good example. This is a wedge pattern. If I was trading this properly, I should have actually cut my losses right here. I wasn't using bracket orders back in the early stages up until the last week of August. I wasn't using bracket orders at all. And because of that, it left me in control of the trade, and with me being in control of the trades, it actually tripped me into a state of mind of not wanting to cut my losses. I didn't want to keep, take loss after loss after loss. And because the fear of taking losses ended up causing me to take bigger losses. So on this trade, I ended up doing pretty well. I ended up buying a pre-market, which is something I normally don't do. That's also another thing, that big trade that I ended up getting an MRIN started convincing me that I could trade pre-market, because I was also up pretty early in the morning. Oftentimes, especially early in August, I wasn't going to sleep until sometimes 10 o'clock in the morning, or sometimes I would even be up 24 hours. So my sleep schedule was really off and in August. So I was buying a lot pre-market and place the bracket orders on it. Sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I would sleep, wake up, with 2 to 3 hours sleep. And this was purchased right after 5 o'clock in the morning. On this particular trade, I ended up falling asleep, woke up at 7, so I only had 2 hours of sleep, and ended up cutting the trade and went back to bed. So the inconsistent sleep schedule was also really affecting my trading in August. Some of the frustrating parts of that was where I'd see charts that would actually work out. I just didn't have the patience to actually wait and trade them. Again, you can see a lot of these are just ABCD patterns or wedge patterns that just took a little bit of time to actually form in the market. and ended up working out in the end. Some of the stuff that I've also started to not do in August was, other than not using my bracket orders, was trying to do a little bit more of a swing trading. Somehow I got convinced in my mind that if I was to swing trade, then I'd be able to take bigger parts of the move. I thought perhaps, due to the market conditions that, maybe swing trading was a better option. So during some of this time, I ended up starting to swing trade. So this week of August started out pretty decent, ended up having a bigger loss than I wanted to, and another small loss. Having small losses, like even up to $20, depends on what position size I'm doing. 5% is my max loss on any given trade. So some of the things that I'm actually doing different in September is going back to the strategy of bracket orders. I started using the bracket orders and started going back to my strategy on the 31st. So what ended up happening is I was swing trading one of these stocks. I don't remember which one it was. But anyways, I was swing trading something and I ended up taking a loss on that one. I think it was actually the RPX. Let me just check that right here. Yeah, so this was actually the chart that I was swing trading. And that's kind of woke up my brain to the aspect of I wasn't trading the way that I should be trading. I bought into this thinking that I was going to slowly start to squeeze up. And once it broke out of this range right here, which was around the $20 mark, I ended up buying it at $20.87. Didn't really use bracket orders on this one again. Let it come back down, thinking, oh, well, maybe I'm just a little bit early, and started holding on to it, and then ended up cutting it as it started coming back up. Because this was the day that I started using the bracket orders, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to swing trade unless it's in between the bracket orders, as long as it's actually following the plan that I originally set up, that's fine. So on my data sheet, that's why I ended up having a $23.91 loss right here. For me, mentally, on the 30th as a reset, as a mental reset as well. So I ended up taking another trade of MMAT. That was having a clean breakout, ended up paper trade, or ended up trading it. I didn't end up paper trading it a couple of days beforehand, seeing the trends. That way I can just keep it on watch. But when I really traded it with my account, I tried to get a position at 533. I wanted to get a full size on that position, and instead I actually got a partial fill, not for any other reason than the fact that I ended up not typing in the full amount of shares that I was looking to get on that day. So I kind of just left it at, yeah, so here it is. So here's the trade. So I ended up not typing in the full amount of shares that I wanted right here. So there was already 7 shares there, and I just didn't really realize that only about 7 shares. Came back, got me stopped out, started making this upwards trend, which is another pattern that I traded. It's basically an inverted ABCD, or it's an ABCD pattern. So I ended up buying it down here again, risking off the lows down here. And as it started to work from 518 to the high 560, that would have been an 8% profit right there. Normally what I'm looking for is actually a much bigger move, something around the 20 to 30% range. So I had this nice clean breakout, but I ended up not being able to really hold those gains, especially as soon as market opened. So I ended up kind of for a small loss. Her loss on that was like $3.80-something. And then I've been tracking gap and crack reversals a lot. So you can see how this chart had a gap up, kind of pulled back, started making this ABCD consolidation wedge pattern right here, ended up breaking out and continued on for a short period of time. So I've been trying to trade those a little bit more. This was kind of a gap and crack reversal idea. It's also a breakout idea. And this one right here, ACIU, was one that I was thinking was a gap and crack reversal. After analyzing the chart, it didn't really create that kind of stair stepping upwards trend towards the VWAP or towards the open. So I ended up just trading this one, ended up taking a loss on this, which is fine. As long as I'm cutting my losses quickly and at key levels that I determine as where the chart has a higher likelihood of failing, making the little mistakes is fine, as long as I'm not pulling my stops. This one right here was another gap and crap reversal. So this is kind of what I was looking for, was that nice upwards trend. And this is one that I was debating of either buying this one or the ACIU, this one right here. And I ended up choosing ACIU just purely because of the volume that I had on the day. I thought I had a greater chance of running. This trade right here would have been a good entry down this position and set up there. Doesn't look like a lot on the chart, but from here to here is actually a 20% gain. So there was an opportunity for 20% right there. And, some more wedge patterns. RNXT was actually a really good wedge pattern. It would have been ideal to buy around this area and actually risking the low up here. And it would have just, popped up. So some of the key things that I'm actually taking away from August is I have to get back to the bracket order type of strategy for September. So that's what I've been doing so far. I've started doing that on the 30th and had 2 losses so far using bracket orders from the 30th to the 31st. And coming into September, I've had Wednesday and Thursday so far as small losses. The data, when I'm actually using in a new month, I do use the data from the previous month to actually determine what the highest probabilities are. And so far, it's between 20 to 30%. So I've been aiming for 20% because that kind of matches up with this side. If I was actually to lower it down, I'd probably go as low as 15%, just to make sure that there's something there. What's been happening early in September is a lot of the charts have actually been failing. They've been getting to around the 13% mark and just crashing at that point. So to give you an understanding of what I'm talking about, this trade right here, something I had traded, I only took small size on it, 3 shares. Again, I was buying a little bit too early. Got stopped out for a small loss, 75 cents, not a big deal. So I'm not going to track that one. It just wasn't really worth it. Just started making this nice uptrending stair stepping pattern. Ideal entry would have been around here, risking 5%, so around this area, right about here. And it got topped out around 1458. Never even got close to that 15% or even the 20% mark that I've been looking for. I do think this one's going to kind of just fade all day long. And then same thing with ANY. Nice wedge pattern. Ideal entry would have been around here, so you could end up here to here, and it's around 13.55. So it's possible as the new data comes in for August, from September, sorry, not August, that I maybe ended up aiming too high, but I don't know yet. I don't know what the market possibilities are. I've only tracked one ABCD pattern for this for OTCs, which was CCHA, and that was a really good run. Ran over 100% on Wednesday, so it did really well. So some of the other stuff that I started recognizing in August was my mental state of mind. So I started using my trading workbook again. There's times where I stopped using that. I just kind of thought I didn't need it. After reviewing my trades of August, I started realizing that there's probably something mentally that was going on other than just sleep deprivation, other than just a random sleep schedule. My trading was becoming really random. It's possible that I'm also trading too many patterns. I did stop buying breakouts unless it actually forms an ABCD pattern or some sort of wedge pattern on the breakout, so I don't just randomly buy the breakouts anymore. ABCD patterns and is my main type of strategy that I try to trade. Gap and crap reversals is something that I've been trying to trade a little bit more often since the first green day, so I think for now, I'll be probably sticking to these three. Wedge patterns to me is just a variation of an ABCD pattern, so I kind of lump those two together. And I do actually trade both of those and try to check in these two at the same time. So with the breakout patterns, one thing I'm going to be considering a breakout is if a breakout of a key level consolidates and actually makes either a wedge pattern or ABCD pattern, I need to have an identifiable risk to actually base my trade off of. That's some of the stuff that when I was trading breakouts in August, I noticed going through and reviewing my trades that I'd buy the breakout, but it wouldn't form an additional pattern of support or anything like that on that. And that's probably one of the reasons why I think I wasn't really taking profits or cut my losses early enough, was because there wasn't really much of a risk area that I had, and as it came down, I just kept wanting to hold on longer because it was like, it's a breakout, it's got to work. As far as first green days go, I haven't been tracking a lot of them. I generally like to see the first green days have a little bit more of this, open, kind of pull back, make a higher low, start to squeeze up towards VWAP and just pop up that. That's kind of the first green day patterns that I like. And it's kind of similar to that of a gap and crap reversal, where it opens up, pulls back, makes some higher lows, squeezing towards VWAP, and then kind of just works right up there. That's kind of the gap and crap reversals that I'm looking for. Some of the things that I'm also going to be doing into September is I need to be more mindful of the time frames. I still think that this time tracker that I have here for each pattern has some sort of merit to it. I just don't yet know how to actually implement it into my trading. So basically what this is trying to gather the average time frame. When I'm tracking my data, I do actually put the time frame right here. And before, I used to, back in July and other times, I'd actually put it the exact time frame, so as far as like, let's say 9:35 or 10:55 or 9:40. So what I started doing in August was actually trying to change the time frames to match more of a, either a full number or a half. So like either 10 or 10:30 or 11. That way, I'm actually tracking the data. I can start to look, let's say, around 10:30 for 11 o'clock wedge pattern, ABCD pattern, versus looking at things too early or having the data have just too much variables in it. So based off of this one, and August, it looks like the best time frame to start looking for an ABCD pattern was between 11:30 to 12, which means I have to start to look for an ABCD pattern around 10 o'clock. There were some times that they worked out in around 8 to 8:30 in the morning, which is pretty consistent to what I've actually traded in the past. And so it looks like AIM-Y is working out pretty decently. Ideal entry to get down here, but if you missed that, this is so far 16%, so it would have been so far 15% move on this. And it's possible that as new data comes in for September, my expectations may come down. But that's pretty much it for this recap as far as what's going to be happening. And pretty much all it is just trying to get back onto using bracket orders, trading the strategy that I've developed, making sure that the data is actually reflecting what the probabilities are of the move are, and using that information. Even though I've taken 4 losses in a row, it doesn't really bother me. I was thinking after the 3rd loss, that I took on Wednesday, that maybe I should actually lower my expectations as far as my price targets go. But right now, what I'm trying to do is basically get used to, leaving the bracket orders on there, letting the system work itself out, making sure that I know my stops. And I know that over a series of trades, I'll end up becoming that profitable. It's been proven before in the past. There's been times where I've, not followed my strategy, had no strategy here in May, thinking that I could actually do whatever, end up taking a massive loss. And then January, started following the system, started following the strategy, and ended up taking profits. And then February, same thing, started following a strategy, started following a system, took some more profits. And then in March, all that discipline kind of just went out the window and started taking bigger and bigger and bigger losses. And then eventually, over time, I ended up trying to get back on track and start to use some sort of system, some sort of strategy. And I developed this strategy slowly over time since December last year. And I am doing this boom and bust cycle of where I'll have consistent months of profitability and then a few months of losses. And what I'm trying to do is actually just get used to using the system that I developed, and kind of getting confidence in using that system. Because I know the system works over time. I just need to actually follow the rules that I have to set in place. So going into September, it's a new month. My goal is to actually use bracket orders in every trade, focus on ABCD patterns, wedge patterns, gap and crab reversals, and first green day patterns. First green day patterns don't come often for the type of strategy that I like. Most of that is pretty much just based off of former runners that's actually had some pretty big pullbacks. So ANY is actually starting to become a candidate for a first green day pattern. This one would have actually been able to hit that probability of 20%, no problem. So that's the first one today that's been able to do that. And that's also another kind of restriction that I have on my account is how much size I have. So currently my account size is only $446.84. At the beginning of this week, it was at $470. So I've lost a total of like $30. A total of like $30. And because my account size is so small, what I decided to do was actually divide the money up so that way I have 1 day trade a day. Some of the problems that I was actually having in August was a very small account. I didn't have day trades every day, and I think what was going on was I set an expectation that once I reached $400, that I was going to be able to divide that money up and trade every single day. I did end up reaching $400.28, $428.58, sometime in August. I think it was around one of these 2 days here. And the way that I ended up doing that was actually through lack of discipline. And so when I ended up reaching that price target, I ended up thinking that I could take more for the move. I ended up taking a bigger loss. Wanted to chase those losses, ended up taking bigger losses. And I was still trying to chase, the $400 mark to try to get over that again, so that way I can try to divide the account and trade every single day. And over time throughout August, I ended up switching my mentality from trading the system and trading the process over profits. I started trading the account and the dollar amount, and was worried more about the money versus anything else. And so, because I have such a small account, being able to take multiple trades in a day is kind of not really possible. I kind of have to pick a trade, either I'm right or wrong on the trade. I have to accept whatever happens, which is also one of the reasons why so far I've taken 4 losses in a row. It just so happens to be that I've chosen 4 of the wrong stocks. And I have to kind of, come to terms that because of how small my account is, with a small account challenge, that there's gonna be times where I pick the right stock and it works out. There's gonna be times where I pick the wrong stock and it doesn't work out. As long as I'm keeping my losses pretty small, it's gonna be a lot easier to recover from. So that's pretty much it for this video. Leave a comment below. How's your guys' August going? Did you guys finish the month green, or was it red? And what type of lessons did you learn from reviewing your own trades? We'll see you next time.